The slides are sharing with.
Yes, madam.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
meeting
Please mute your. Okay, we'll move on to the next concept, that is assessment. So simply I had given the meaning of assessment. Stop ಮಾಡಿ. Stop ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಶೇರ್ ಇದಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ ಶೇರ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದಾ? ಶೇರ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇದು ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್, ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಈಗ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ಶೋ ಕೊಡಿ. Is the slides are visible?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Yes, madam.
What is assessment? What is the meaning of assessment? Here, assessment, it refers to any process of gathering information about student learning that can be interpreted, analyzed and used by teacher. That is, after the completion of our curriculum, what we are going to do? We are going to gather information about student learning. So that information is, we are going to analyze, interpret, and we are going to use that information to guide the teaching learning process, aggregating student learning at relevant junctures, and also reporting student progress over time. That means assessment is not only related with the to know about the progress of the students, but it is also guide for teaching learning process. It helps the teacher whether whatever the methodology or whatever the teaching strategies are used by teacher to transact the curriculum is effective or not. And according to that, we are going to change in our plan of teaching. So therefore, this assessment is nothing but the gathering information about the students' learning. And we are going to analyze it and interpret it, and we are going to use that results to improve the teaching learning process, and we can aggregate students' learning at relevant junctures. That means at different levels. What is the students' learning, and then reporting student progress. We can report the student progress. That is a simple meaning of the assessment. Then, what are the aims of assessment? So, in our culture of our school system, we shift from summative to test, or primarily it was rote memorization to regular and formative. So, and it is more competency based, and it promotes learning and development of our students, and tests our higher order skills like analysis, critical thinking, and conceptual clarity. So here, the primary purpose of the assessment is indeed be for learning. That means the main aim of this assessment is for learning. That means it helps the teacher and students, the entire schooling system, where they can revise teaching learning process to maximize their learning and development for all students. And this will be the underlying principle of assessment at all levels of education. That means whatever assessment we are going to do at all the levels of education, they based on this principle. That is nothing but where the assessment, it helps the teacher and students, and it helps the schooling system to continuously revise their teaching learning process to maximize their to maximize their learning and development. So based on this only, we are going to assess the learning process. So if we go through the assessment pattern, so in the previous slide, I told our schooling system will shift from the summative and rote memorization to regular and formative. If we go through the historical or review of our assessment pattern, if we come to the Vedic system where we had Gurukula system of education, the main pattern of assessment is oral test and recitation. Okay. Then again, in the Buddhist period also, oral test. Through the oral test, we are going to assess students' learning. And then in the Muslim period, what we say medieval period also, even through the oral test only, the students' learning are assessed. And then the Sadler Commission, it has recommended for setting up of secondary and intermediate boards to assess the learning of students. And then HATAC committee, it has concentrated assessment only with essay type of questions. That is, we have shifted from oral test to the board exams and then writing form of assessment. And then the Tara Chand committee, it has recommended one public exam at the end of the secondary stage. And then Secondary Education Commission, it has emphasized on the reduction of external examination. Weightage should be given to other activities like reduce the external examination, whatever we are going to have, that is the sem-end exam, term-end exam, like that. Instead, give the weightage to other activities also. And then Kotari Commission, it has recommended to improve the evaluation methods. Whatever the evaluation methods we had in that period, like oral test or essay type or other writing pattern of test, written tests are there, it has suggested to improve the evaluation methods. And Ishwar Bhai Patel committee, it has stressed more on the self-study instead of assessing the students externally by giving some test orally or in the written form. It has stressed on the self-study. And the National Knowledge Commission, it has also stressed on reforms in examination system. And because of all these historical background, whatever the different committees and commissions suggested or recommended for reforms in examination system, they had laid great emphasis on need for revamping students' assessment through examinations for bringing quality and confidence in the system of education. That is, to assess students through examinations, we have to revamp the system of examination to develop or to build confidence among the students and in the system of education. We have to bring changes in the examination. That is what the different committees and commissions recommended for the assessment part. If we come to the National Policy on Education 1968 and 1986, the 1968 National Policy on Education, it recommended for a shift in the focus of evaluation from certification to improvement in learning. That is, instead of giving certification, your assessment should focus more on bringing improvement in learning. That means whatever you are going to assess, based on that, you make changes in your teaching learning and then focus more on the learning. That is the recommendation of the 1968. And then 1986 national policy, it has suggested elimination of excessive element of chance and subjectivity. Chance and subjectivity means by chance the students are going to answer, that is by guessing. For example, for a multiple choice type of question is there, MCQ, what we say, the students are going to, if the child or the student does not know answer, that child is going to randomly, that is on guess, they are going to tick the answer. That is, for that purpose, it has suggested to eliminate excess element of chance. That means there should be opportunity for the students to answer the questions by chance. Okay, and subjectivity. And it has de-emphasized memorization. That is, just by hatting or memorizing the facts, the childs are going to omit whatever they have learned on the paper. And then it has recommended for introduction of continuous and comprehensive evaluation. So in 1986 NPE itself, it has emphasized or it has recommended for CC and it has introduced, and use of grades in the place of marks, also suggested for use of grades in the place of marks. We know that the negative effect of this marks giving system. So we know that even all the entire society has experienced that most of the students, because of 1 mark or 0.5, they are going to lose their rank. Previously we had rank system that has led to some uh, unpleasant consequences. So because of that, it has recommended to use the grades in place of marks, and then it has recommended to introduce the semester system from secondary stage in a phased manner. So that is the recommendation given by NPE 1968 and 1806 with reference to assessment pattern. Even the National Curriculum Framework of 1975, 88, 2000 and 2005, which serves as a guidelines for syllabus, textbooks, teaching practices and assessment of learning. This national curriculum, based on the significant recommendations of different commissions and policies, whatever I told, it has policy documents into implementation strategies in areas of teaching and learning and assessment for qualitative improvement in entire school education system. So based on the recommendations of these committees, it has implemented, it has suggested and it has designed strategies in the area of teaching, learning and assessment for qualitative improvement in the entire schooling system. So apart from that, we are facing some challenges in the present society. That too, especially with the assessment pattern or whatever our examination systems are there. In our schools currently, what is that assessment has mostly become mechanical and routinized. Mechanical. That means there is no novelty or nothing. Just mechanically we are following and we have accepted it as a routine procedure of assessment. That is the one challenge. And we are focusing more on measuring rote learning of content. Rote learning of content means we don't know to what extent the students have understood the concept, to what is their level of conceptual understanding. But still, we are going to measure based on their learning, rote learning of content, rather than measuring achievement of competencies under learning outcomes. We don't know whether that child has achieved that competency or he has reached that learning outcome, but we are going to assess the child just based on the content whatever they have presented in their paper, in their answer script. We are neglecting the achievement of competencies. That's why at the primary school level, now instead of focusing more on the whatever the students have answered, the teachers are asked to assess or evaluate whether the child has achieved the competencies, expected competencies according to their level. That is, first class, like class 1 child, class 2 child, what are their competencies? Whether the child has achieved that competencies, then only we have to promote the child to the next level. Otherwise, it is the fault of the teacher, and it is also responsibility of the teacher to make the child to achieve that competency. Then the child can be forwarded to the next level. So therefore, but still what we are going to do? Yes, being a parent and being a teacher, I am observing in the school system where we are going to measure the rote learning of the content instead of we are not measuring the competencies and learning outcomes of the students. And assessment, it is also generating fear and leads to labeling and segregation based on marks. Okay, that they have scored in tests and examinations with significant social consequences. So here, assessment, what students generally experience is that it is creating fear among them, anxiety, some kind of stress. What? Because of what? That assessment pattern, what we are doing based on the marks leading to the labeling and segregation. Labeling means we are going to label the child as first rank holder, second rank holder. Segregation, we are going to segregate them into different groups. So that has led to significant social consequences, what I told, depression among the students or anxiety, or sometimes it has led to the higher like suicide, like that. So that is another one challenge in the field of assessment. And then the stress caused by board examinations at grade 10 and 12 is even more, leading to deep anxiety among students and families. So
Right.
board examinations, they are going to stress more on students, that especially at the level of grade 10 and 12, even including parents also. They stress more on the students to score more. So leading to the anxiety among the students. That is another one challenge. And the current structure of many board examinations at present, whatever, but not all, I'm not generalizing it. In general, so board examinations, they force us students to concentrate only on a few curricular areas at the expense of others, preventing truly holistic development. That means, I think you could have observed some children, or in your family itself, you could have observed. Like the children are going to concentrate only on curricular areas. That too, especially nowadays, I am a new trend I have observed, that is language is not essential at all. What is the necessity of language for grade 10 and 12? This is the opinion of the students. What the child, the children who are studying in the grade 10 and 12, they themselves, they are not interested in studying the subjects like language, like English or Kannada or other languages. They want to concentrate only on some particular areas which they feel that essential for their future. Like they want to concentrate more on the other subjects like science, maths. That means they want to school. And then apart from that, they are neglecting their other areas, like their non-academic areas, like whatever the co-curricular activities they want to involve, or for their physical development, they are not bothered about it. They want to score well in the curricular areas, that too especially with respect to some subjects only. That is the another one challenge what we are facing. So when we are having all these challenges, then what kind of assessment we are expecting? Then how we can assess our students? So already I told NEP, the main vision of the NEP is the all-round development of the individual. All-round development means where we have to consider all the dimensions of the children or students. So therefore, here NEP, keeping all these current challenges and whatever the assessment practices we have in our system of education, it has stated that the aim of assessment in the culture of our schooling system will shift from summative and primarily test rote memorization skills to more regular and formative and more competency based. That means we have to shift from summative. Summative means at the end we are going to assess, and from rote memorization to regular and for competency based, whether the child has achieved that competency or not. And formative means regularly, that is in between, as the child is in a particular academic year, in between we have to assess the child. If that kind of assessment pattern is followed, whatever that is regular and formative, it promotes learning and development of our students, and it helps to test higher order skills like analysis, critical thinking, and conceptual clarity. Here, why it is stressing more on where the assessment patterns should test the higher order skills like analysis, critical thinking, and conceptual clarity. Nowadays, what is happening with us is if somebody says something, we are going to accept. We are blindly following it. We are not able to think whether it is essential for me or not, or whatever they are saying is true or false. What kind of decision should I take? Such skills are lagging behind in the present society, and there is no conceptual clarity among the students. So, therefore, we have to assess such skills. For example, here I want to share is I think even you people may have also experienced in your question paper, if you are going to ask a question like explain, okay, the concept of personality, that is directly your answer, asking the question. If the same question, you can ask the same question at the application level. So where we are going to ask like explain the concept of personality according to some psych, like let us take Sigmund Freud. That is the question. Explain the concept of personality or the concept of personality as illustrated or as discussed by Sigmund Freud. So here for both the questions, the first question explain, here we are going to expect the same answer. The children, the students are not able to understand the question. So then they are not able to understand and they are not able to present their answer in a critical manner. If you ask a question, critically examine the present system of education. There, the student will not answer critically. What they are going to do? They are going to give a long essay. What is this examination pattern? What is the structure of the examination pattern? What kind of test or exams we are going to give, question paper like that. They are not going to analyze and criticize whether the question paper or the assessment pattern we are following is good or bad. What are the positive aspects of it? What are the negative aspects of it? That is not we are seeing in our young generation. So therefore, that kind of skills, critical thinking, analysis, is a problem solving skills we are expecting from our children. So therefore, we have to change our assessment pattern from summative and rote memorization to regular competency based, and which can lead for the development of higher order skills. And it will help the optimize learning and development for all students. And it emphasizes on the same thing, promotes the learning and development of students, focuses on assessment for learning, and then revise the teaching learning process to optimize learning. Here, if we come to the assessment pattern or approaches to assessment of learning, here we can look at three approaches. In the school education, we can have three approaches to assessment of learning. They are assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning. That means we can approach assessment in three ways. They are not the ways, they are approach. Assessment of learning means what? Measurement of achievement of student learning. That means what is the level of students learning, whether the student has learned or not. That is assessment of learning. Then the second approach is assessment for learning. So assessment for learning means here evidence of students learning gathered by teacher provides inputs to guide the teaching learning process. That means here whatever the results we are going to get from assessment of learning, that is we are going to get some student learning information. Based on that, we are going to plan our teaching learning process. That is, if the student learning is optimum, whether it is at the maximum level, we consider that our teaching learning process is effective. Otherwise, if it is at the lower level or at the average level, we can revise our teaching learning process, and we think that whether should I make some changes or modifications, or should I include or implement some new strategies or methods in my teaching learning process. That is assessment for learning. And the third approach is assessment as learning. That is when we are going to use this assessment as for self-reflection and introspection. Self-reflection, for example, for us, that is in the field of teaching, all of us are going to reflect on ourselves. That means self-appraisal of teachers. I think even you people have gone through the self-appraisal where you are going to appraise yourself. That is self-reflection. And another one good example is that after the completion of the each classes, we can have an introspection of ourselves and we can have a self-reflection of our teaching. So, and that self-reflection and introspection results of that, they gives a developmental and constructive feedback. That means, for example, if my today's class is not, after my self-reflection and introspection, I may came to know that, so somewhere in between I have made some mistakes, or I'm fault, or I'm wrong with some points, or like that, or some in between, I may think that I could have utilized or implemented some new strategies. I'm going to correct, or I'm going to implement or make that changes in my next class. So that is developmental. That is, it is going to help or it is going to develop my teaching, and it is constructive in nature. This is referred as assessment as learning. So, therefore, assessment pattern in the school education, we have to look at three approaches of assessment, that is assessment of learning, where you are going to assess the achievement of your students learning, assessment of learning that provides inputs for your teaching learning process, and assessment as learning for self-reflection and introspection of the individuals. So these are the three assessment approaches which we. And then coming to the types of assessment. Already I told NEP states or emphasizes on the shift from summative to formative, rote memorization to the competency based. So then what is this formative and summative assessment? So formative, the term itself is indicating the meaning of the assessment pattern. Coming to the summative means in total, that is whatever the term end exam we call or semester end exams, they are summative assessment. That is, we are going to evaluate students learning at the end of a lesson or a logical period of teaching. So that is at the end we are going to assess the students. And then they are normally highest stake that they compare student performance to a benchmark or standard or have some consequences. That is with reference to some predetermined standard or criteria. We are going to compare the scores of the students, the scores the student are going to get in their summative assessment with the other standard criteria. And some example are term and test or a board exam. And this summative assessment can also be used for formative purposes. Like, I'm not telling that, where the results of summative assessment we can use for informing the teaching learning. That is, how was our teaching during the whole period of the classes. So here, this summative assessment is used for formative purposes, that is for informing, teaching and learning. In between we can make changes. Then coming to the formative, opposite to the summative, where assessments are continuous and ongoing. Continuously, that is with defined periodical break, we are going to assess our students continuously. And here, this formative assessment, they are used to track student learning to provide ongoing feedback. That means, for example, in your class, if you are having a child who is not studying well, if you are going to have a summative assessment, in the last you will came to know that why the child is lagging behind. So in the last you can't give any kind of feedback. But if you go through the formative assessment, that means in between or at the earlier stage only you can identify the students lagging. ಇದು ಒಟ್ಟು ಇದೆಯಾ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ and this formative assessments, where in the earlier stage, if we came to know that the child is not performing well, we can give feedback there itself and we can keep an eye on the students to like where we can support the child in achieving the results or whatever the predetermined standard or benchmark or criteria is there. And even this formative assessment, it can be used by teachers to improve their teaching and by students to improve their learning. We can, being a teachers, yes, I can make an introspection of myself, like, yes, the child or the result is very less. Why? The question. Then what is the solution for that? Answer. Yes, I may be lagging somewhere. My teaching may not be reaching the students. I'm not able to meet the demands of the student. Then how can I? So where I can try to improve my teaching, and also students can improve their learning. So that is the one advantage in case of formative assessment. And these formative assessment, they do not have any strong consequences. And some examples for this are observing student behavior in the class, asking students to draw a concept map in a class to represent their understanding of a topic, and asking students to write a few sentences with a friend on a poem they have read, and whatever we say, internal assessment we have in our semester system. That is a good example of the formative assessment. That is in the internal assessment we are going. In the schools also we have like FA or PA, they say. Formative assessment 1, 2, 3. And the teachers are going to go through the assessments of the formative assessment 1. Based on that, they are going to give suggestions and feedback to the students to improve their learning. That is formative assessment. Then what NEP says? If we come to the assessment pattern, what's suggested by NEP, here it focuses on a progress card which should be holistic. Holistic progress card. And it should be a 360-degree multi-dimensional report. Holistic means it should cover all the aspects of the students. That means that marks card should show their social, emotional, physical, spiritual, all the aspects of development. That is holistic. And 360-degree multi-dimensional report, that means it should cover all the angles of the student. And then it should depict, or it should reflect in detail about the progress as well as uniqueness of each learner in the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domain. Uniqueness and also progress. Progress means overall your progress and uniqueness. Your uniqueness in cognitive domain or affective or psychomotor domain. That kind of report the NEP emphasizes with reference to the assessment. So, the progress card should be a holistic 360-degree multidimensional, which should reflect on the progress and also uniqueness of the each learner in the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domain. And the progress card of all students for school-based assessment, which is communicated by schools to parents, will be completely redesigned by states or UTs under guidance from the proposed National Assessment Center. That means here the schools, they have to prepare the progress card as designed by state under the guidance of National Assessment Center, NCRT and SCRTs, where the schools should not prepare the card on their own. So that is based on the proposed guidelines from the National Assessment Center. And this progress card should include self-assessment, peer assessment. Self-assessment means assessment of the student himself or herself, peer assessment, that is their friends assess how they are going to assess them, and progress of the child in project based and inquiry based learning, that is to what extent the child has made progress in the project based or inquiry based learning. That means in the schools the teachers are going to give some projects, and what is the involvement of the child in that project, and how the child was learned through inquiry based learning, in quizzes, role plays, group work, portfolios, etc., along with the teacher assessment. It also includes teacher assessment and also involvement or participation of the child in all these areas. That kind of report card should be prepared to uh, assess the child. And this progress card, what is, I said, 360 multidimensional and then holistic one. It should form an important link between home and the school. That means that card should be a link between the parents and the school. That means by going through that progress card itself, the parents can assess what is the progress and involvement of their child in the different fields. And this should be accompanied by parent-teacher meetings in order to actively involve parents in their children's holistic education and development. That means where this progress card is going to involve, the other aim behind this is to involve parents in the holistic children's education and development. Without parents, the teachers are not only the responsible for the development, holistic development of the child, even the parents are also responsible. So to make aware of this, that is, even the parents are also responsible and they should actively involve in the students' development. The holistic card, what I told, it acts as a link between the home and school. And this card would also provide teachers and parents with valuable information on how to support each student in and out of the classroom. And that card should be in such a manner that it should provide some information to the teachers and to the students. That is how we can support the student in and out of the classroom. That is within the classroom and out of the classroom. And another one important thing, what it suggested is AI-based software could be developed and used by students to help to track their growth through their school years based on learning data and interactive questionnaires for parents, students, and teachers. AI-based software could be developed. That is where going through that tool, AI tool, students can track their growth. That is, how I have progressed from the first level to the grade 12 or to the higher education. That is based on their data and questionnaire data from their parents, students, and teachers to provide valuable information to the students regarding their strengths, areas of interest, and needed areas of focus. That means if the child or the student goes through that track, or if the AI tool or software helps the students to view review their learning track, they can find out their strengths, weaknesses, areas of interest, and also needed area. Where should I focus more on? And also helps them to make optimal career choices. To make a correct career choices, this holistic card or the assessment helps the students. So this is a diagrammatic picture of the holistic progress card, what I just explained. That is, I told it is a holistic where it has to cover all the domains. that is cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotor domain. And I told this card where school-based assessment is there, and also it is assessment of teachers is also there. And this is going to be supported by self-assessment, that is assessment by students themselves, assessment by parents, and peer assessment. And it is a link between home and school. And it is completely, this tool is going to be redesigned by states, I told, under the guidance of SCRT, and it will include the progress of child in inquiry-based learning, quiz, role play, etc. And I told an AI-based software should be used by students to track their growth through the school years. This is a diagrammatic representation of the assessment pattern and holistic 3-degree multi-dimensional report card for all students, that is suggested by NEP. And then coming to the public examinations. With reference to the public examinations also, NEP had given some suggestions. Secondary exams, board exams, and entrance exams are, we know, we are making our children very busy by sending them to exam coaching and exam preparation, that too excessive, where we are making our children to invest their time fully or completely for this exam coaching and exam preparation. Okay, so that is the pressure given by secondary exam, board exam, and entrance exam, which are eating away the valuable time of the children, true learning time of the children. They are investing more on excessive exam. And also force students to learn very narrow band of content or material in a single stream, that is cognitive only. And board exams be for that purpose, it has suggested to redesign board exams which encourages holistic development. Okay, so by discouraging the coaching culture and exam preparation, don't make your students to learn by the view of exam only, and discourage the culture of coaching, sending the children to the coaching centers. Instead, make them to think divergently. That means from all the aspects they have to think. So we have to redesign the board exam, and we have to give freedom to students to choose range of subjects in which they take board exams depending on their individualized interest. That is, we have to give importance to the interest of each students and give freedom to select subject in which they are interested to take board exam in that subjects only. And then we have to make the board exam easier, like test primarily the core capacities or competencies rather than content memorization. So we are going to assess our child primarily based on whatever they have written in the answer script. So it says that don't, 1 second please. Rather than content memorization, you just test whether the child has attended or achieved that capacities or competencies. So, and then all the students be allowed to take board exams up to 2 occasions during any given school year. That means we are creating stress or tension on our students to take the exam only once. So that's why it has suggested to allow the students to take board exams for 2 occasions during any given school year, one main examination and one for improvement to eliminate the high stakes aspect of board exams. That means one should be the main exam and another should be the improvement, where we can eliminate this one. And then to reduce this pressure and coaching culture, what I told, think to develop further viable models of board exams. Viable models, other forms, or what kind of board exams we can have. Think about that, like annual or semester board exams, or in certain subjects question paper may be redesigned. We can redesign the question paper itself, having two parts, like one part of an objective type with MCQs and the other of a descriptive type. Instead of giving descriptive or only the MCQs, have different form of question paper where we can have two parts, one with objective, another one with the descriptive. And then have some models like semester board exams or annual board exams, like that. And then NCRT, in consultation with SCRTs, BOAs, NAC, etc., they are going to prepare guidelines on the NEP 2020 recommendations regarding the assessment to align with the NEP 2020. Follow the guidelines given by NEP 2020, and this is prepared by NCRT, and they are going to align with the NEP 2020. And where, in order to achieve this transformation in the assessment system by 20 to 23 academic session, guidelines for teacher education program shall also be developed. That is, we should develop guidelines for the teacher education program also, because in the teacher education program we are going to train the teachers how to plan for exam, how to prepare a question paper, like that, how to assess the children's cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotor domain, what kind of questions should be asked, like that. So according to the guidelines given by the NEP 2020 with reference to the assessment pattern, in align with that, the teacher education program should also be developed. And then coming to reforming the examinations. Already I told some models, and teachers should be prepared for transformation in the next academic sessions, and each board ensure equivalence of academic standards in learners attainment, and then set up a national assessment center, PARAK, that is performance assessment review and analysis of knowledge for holistic development, as a standard boards for the assessment centers. So what I told, PARAK is a performance assessment review analysis. Then what is that? For whole knowledge, for whole analysis of knowledge for holistic development. It fulfills the objectives of setting norms, standards, and guidelines for the student assessment and evaluation for all recognized school boards in India. That means what I told, NEP, according to the NEP, a guideline should be prepared. No, PARAK is going to prepare that norms, standards, and guidelines for assessment and evaluation, and it guides the state achievement survey and national achievement survey, monitors the achievement of learning outcomes in the country, encourages and helps the school boards to shift their assessment pattern towards meeting the skill requirements of the 21st century. That is, whatever the assessment pattern they are having, the NEP 2020, it under the PARAK, it says that they should shift their assessment pattern towards different pattern where it should meet the skill requirements of the 21st century. And then the center also advise school boards regarding new assessment patterns and latest researchers, promote collaborations between the school boards, and it will also become an instrument for sharing the best practices among school boards. That means what are the practices followed by other schools, that knowledge is shared with the other schools through PARAK, and it ensures the equivalence of academic standards among learners across the all school boards. And then it has recommended to set up a national assessment center for school education. It is a standard setting body under the Ministry of Education. It set norms, standards, and guidelines for assessment and evaluation, guides SAT, SAS, NAS, monitors learning outcomes. And then this also collaborates between the school boards, and we have National Testing Agency, which works to offer high quality common aptitude tests. You know about the NTA, National Testing Agency, all the entrance exam and eligibility tests are conducted by National Testing Agency. It is a high quality common aptitude test and specialized common subject exams in the science, humanities, languages, arts, and vocational subjects at least twice every year is given by National Testing Agency. And this serves as a expert autonomous testing organization to conduct entrance examinations for undergraduate and graduate admissions and fellowships in higher educational institutions. And its services will enable most universities to use this common entrance exam. And instead of each university is conducting their own entrance exam, this National Testing Agency services can be utilized to conduct the entrance exam, and where it reduces burden on students, universities, and colleges and the entire education system. So it suggests for the national testing agencies to conduct entrance examination. And then how we can implement these, whatever suggested by NEP 2020. It says have the board exams twice a year, and then have a 360-degree holistic card, and then have NTA, NAS, like that. How we can implement? For that, prepare new assessment patterns for all stages of schooling. First, prepare assessment patterns according to the guidelines of the NEP, and build a culture of formative and adaptive assessments in schools instead of summative and rote. Build a culture of formative and adaptive assessment. That is, adaptive means some flexible assessment patterns in the schools, and capacity building of teachers to undertake assessment as learning and assessment for learning. I have told what is assessment as learning and assessment for learning. Assessment of learning itself is there through formative or through other techniques we are going to assess. But we have to build the capacity of the teachers, where because some teachers are not ready to take, they are not ready to appraise themselves, what I told, self-appraisal. So for that, we have to build that capacity among our teachers to undertake assessment as learning and assessment for learning. That is, one is for to improve their teaching learning, and another one is for to both for the students and teachers. And then capacity building of paper setters and moderators for new assessment pattern. Whatever the suggestions given by NEP 2020 regarding the new assessment pattern, so we have to build that capacity among our teachers to set the paper in accordance with the new assessment pattern, and prepare question banks for competency based items that test higher order skill. I had given one example already. The question paper and the questions in that question paper should be in such a manner that where that should test the competencies of the individuals, and also it should test the higher order skills like critical thinking, analytical thinking, and then creativity. If you ask a question like write an essay on present status of the Indian society, they should be capable in a status to write the answer very creatively. So such kind of questions should be prepared for the question banks, and develop assessment patterns and evaluation procedures to hold exams for the grades 3, 5, and 8, what we say board exams, and redesign report card. Already I told 360-degree. Development of IT-based track system. Nowadays, in all the universities, we have DigiLockers and other AI tools which helps the students to track their progress. That is progress of learners from 1 to 12, and then development of a plan to reduce the burden of exams, like how we can reduce the burden of exams among our students, going through the policy recommendations in consultation with the boards of assessment, and then renaming of compartment exams as improvement exams. So what we say supplementary or something like that. Instead of that, rename them as improvement exams and strengthen these exams and make them low stakes by CBSE and other boards. Review of subjects offered by CBSE and other board of assessment at secondary and senior secondary level. That is, we have to review the subjects offered by CBSE and prepare a common norm, standards, and guidelines for assessment and evaluation of secondary education in alignment with the NCF 2020 for all boards of assessment, whether it is state board or central board or international board, what we say, central syllabus, international syllabus, and state syllabus. We have to follow, or we have to prepare a common norm, standards, and guidelines to assess the students as per the NEP 2020. So, with this, if we are going to follow all these, whatever the suggestions given by NEP 2020, so that first we have to start from the curriculum, then according to the curriculum, how we can transact the curriculum, that we have to follow the pedagogy, and then according to that pedagogy, whatever the content we have transferred to students, to what extent they have learned should be assessed by the assessment pattern as suggested by NEP 2020. So therefore, NEP 2020, it is a new the policy emphasizes more on the holistic development of the child, where the curriculum should focus on all the dimensions of the students, and our pedagogy should be student centric, and then it should give importance to the experiential learning, and the assessment should be follow 3 approaches: assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning. We are going to follow this. Definitely, we can bring changes in our educational system. So, with this, I end my session. And now there is a time, 10 minutes. Time is for discussion. Any questions or queries are there? Please. Can you? Hello? In between, there is a disturbance. Now it is open for discussion, or what is the interaction?